It's great to be in the SEC. Thank you for tuning in to the SEC Recap Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Warren. Today, we're talking our Game of the Week episode, Alabama at Tennessee. I'm joined again by my good friend, Andrew Turner. We're going to preview the matchup, talk about the rivalry, talk about what's going on both sides of the ball. By the way, you can get all of our content now in one convenient location at secrecap.com. Let's dive in. Number 3, Alabama Crimson Tide, making their way to Knoxville for their third road trip of the season. The historic third Saturday in October rivalry matchup with red-hot number 6 Tennessee Vols. This is a 2:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff. Alabama, a 7.5-point road favorite over Tennessee. Alabama, number 5 in the country in scoring offense. In terms of like total yards, they're number 7. Tennessee, number 2 in the country in terms of scoring offense, and number 1 in total yards. Both teams are averaging in the mid 40s in terms of points per game. Alabama 44.3, Tennessee 46.8. They're both putting up over 500 yards a game. Now Alabama's played 6 games, Tennessee's only played 5, so something to keep in mind there. Yeah. And they both average just under 30 minutes in time of possession. Alabama has 19 passing touchdowns and 13 rushing touchdowns on the season. Tennessee has 13 passing touchdowns and 17 rushing touchdowns on the season. So those numbers are pretty balanced there.
Yeah.
Tennessee, though, as you said earlier, Hendon Hooker, 0 interceptions. Nobody, in fact, no quarterback, even Joe Milton, when he's gotten play time, has thrown an interception to date. Alabama's quarterbacks have thrown 5 interceptions. Alabama has also lost 4 fumbles. Tennessee has lost 5 fumbles. I'm giving an advantage in this case. It's really kind of neutral. I mean, these are 2 top-tier offenses in college football, but I'm leaning Tennessee just by the numbers, and especially if Bryce Young is limited, I'm definitely leaning Tennessee's offense in this one. What about you?
Yeah, a few statistics that I wanted to throw out there that I think is interesting. You touched on it a minute ago, but we're 286 yards per game for Bryndon Hooker. I mean, that's doing some damage on the field, and I think if Bryce Young doesn't play, they're going to have to try to keep up with their offense, and it's going to be quite the game. Another number I want to throw out there, 15 years unbeaten. We have never beaten Saban.
Mm.
They're 15-0. They have quite the streak against us right now. And man, if there was ever an opportunity, it's this one. You know, we've got our offense rolling, we've got everything clicking. And in terms of like harnessing their offense, you know, we kind of touched on it before the podcast. I was just like really bummed to read this morning about what happened over the weekend. One of our star safeties just getting into it with somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. I mean, since
it's just disappointing.
Yeah. So I was wondering, since you're kind of there, like if you had heard anything. I mean, there's just not a lot of details on this right now. Most people have heard, but Jalen McCullough arrested for felony assault. And in the police report, I read the police report, the victim, Zion Spencer, I think is his name, was there in the complex or in that building, had gone out to his car, come back up, walked into the wrong apartment, turned around to leave, was followed, punched, fell down the stairs, went unconscious, woke up, and then police came, investigated, ended up arresting Jalen McCullough. Now, it seems like he, in fact, did this. So, in everything I'm about to say, I don't want it to sound like I'm defending or like justifying felony assault. I'm not. It sounded like the dude left and McCullough followed him and punched him or assaulted him or whatever, which you cannot do that. That you're not defending your home at that point. You're the aggressor. You're the assailant. There's a lot of stuff in this story that just seems so weird. It doesn't add up. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I read a similar article, and When we were living in college together, our roommate walked into the wrong apartment too. So
I feel like everybody's done it.
I know, right? And I looked at the time. I wondered, did this happen at like 1 or 2 in the morning? And it looked like it was happening at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon during the NFL game 1. It sounds like he said some expletive at him. I don't know what was said. You don't have to be something about it. And he basically clocked him, and yeah, he fell all the way back down what seems like a whole flight of stairs. It's just, you just hope that the person's all right in that situation, but you also just want your players to just not be getting involved in stuff like that, because it's distraction, and you need everybody focused, and you also just don't need to be hurting people. Stuff like that, it really holds us back. He's the 3rd UT player to be arrested in the last 2 months. So, we've definitely struggled with this in the past, and I hope that we can clean it up and get it figured out.
I think especially too when you're doing well and you're playing well, and your program and your teammates and possibly you are in the spotlight, like you're in the national media, you're in the national spotlight, trouble will come looking for you. It just has a way of doing that.
Yep.
And you just have to be extra careful to mind your P's and Q's when you're in those situations. And I think that part of that is just learning how to be a part of a program that's achieving at this level. Yeah. Saban in Alabama have been doing it now for a while, so he knows how to manage his players. He knows how to do that. It's still going to happen. Stuff like this happens everywhere. Nobody needs to pretend that this only happens at Tennessee.
I agree.
We could go back to the Urban Meyer years at Florida, and this happens everywhere. It's just at prestigious programs that are winning, it's going to be publicized more. You're going to be in the spotlight.
Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening. I mean, I'm curious if he's going to play. I think that's on everybody's minds, but
I'd say definitely not. There's no way. They're not going to play him. You can't play him.
We probably don't have the full story. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at the history of the matchup. One of the things that I'm noticing just in the history of the rivalry, Tennessee from like 95 to 2006 or so was really putting it to Alabama. And then you notice that Tennessee during that time was a top 10 team just consistently until all of a sudden around 2007, we started tipping into the bottom half of the top 25 in our matchup ranking, and then we just are no longer a top 10 top 25 team at all every time we play Alabama. But they are number 2, number 1, number 8, number 2, number 1, number 1, number 4, number 8, number 1, number 1, number 1. Yeah. And like you mentioned 2016, when was that the last time that we were half decent? And that was the last time we were undefeated at this point in the season, and it was in Knoxville, pretty much a similar setup. Alabama was number 1, we were number 9, and that game, you remember the score?
In 2016?
Yeah, final score, Alabama, Tennessee,
no,
Knoxville,
I don't remember.
49-10.
Oof.
Yeah. The next year is 45-7. The next year is 58-21. If you look back at just last year, 52-24.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they're giving us 7.5 points, that says something. I think that's respect for our team. But if you look back at this last 15 years, it's not impossible to say that they don't just come in and just clean us out if we are not ready for them, especially if Bryce Young is somehow playing and we don't have our safety anymore because he's been arrested. It could get ugly, but I'm looking forward to it.
A couple thoughts, like from that perspective. First of all, there's no way Jalen McCullough plays. He has a pending felony charge. They're not going to play him. As a head coach, as an athletics program, you cannot play somebody with a pending felony charge, because what message does that send to everybody else? Like there's no way, there's zero chance. He's out for the game. As far as Bryce Young, I think Bryce Young will be available for the game. Now, will he be playing at 100%? We'll see. We don't know. But it wouldn't take much to re-injure or re-aggravate his shoulder. So maybe he's playing, but maybe he's playing at like 75%. Maybe he plays the full game, maybe he doesn't. But if he's available, I think he will play. We'll probably find out tomorrow or Thursday. I don't know when they talk to the media again, but it'll probably be Wednesday or Thursday. And then finally on the starting safety issue, man, we're so thin in the secondary already. I don't know how much not having Jalen McCullough really affects what offenses are going to do to us. I think whether he's in the game or whether there's somebody else back there, I don't think it really changes much of an opponent's game plan, whether to throw on you or not. I don't think Jalen McCullough's presence makes Nick Saban or Bryce Young think twice about throwing deep into our backfield. You know what I mean? I think they're going to do it no matter who's back there.
I think he had 23 tackles this year, which was fourth on our team. In terms of, interceptions or pass deflections, stuff like that, I don't know where he is on all that. But, I agree. He's probably not the biggest loss that we could have had on our defensive front, but just hope that we don't lose anybody else for any reason ever.
Yeah, for sure. So on that side of the ball, then defense, Alabama has number 6 in the country in scoring defense. Tennessee is number 23 in the country in scoring defense. Tennessee's defense is okay. Tennessee's defense is at the point where they can keep their offense in the game and just be good enough to win them games. Alabama has a very, very good defense. I think that's going to be the difference maker. Alabama's defense will slow down Tennessee's offense. We will not score on every possession like we did, versus LSU. It could turn into a shootout. I don't really know, but it seems to me that Alabama, if they can slow down our offense, they might want to slow down the game. They might want to just run the ball and really bleed time off the clock and limit the possessions that we do get so we can never really get that tempo going.
I'm expecting them to do that for sure.
I would too. It's exactly what I would do. Especially if they don't have Bryce Young, but even if they do have Bryce Young and they just don't want him rolling out and, risking injury and risk further aggravating his shoulder, that probably is their strategy. They probably lean toward slowing things down, limiting Tennessee's possessions, and having confidence that their offense, no matter what, is good enough to score on our defense, which I think is a better matchup for them.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's going to be quite the game. I cannot wait. The hype in Knoxville for this game is palpable. Everybody is just buzzing right now. I don't really know where you can get tickets. We were talking about Ticketmaster and all these other places, but you're going to be paying $400 to $8,000 for a ticket to this game.
Yeah. StubHub was $360 for double letter nosebleed. I will not be in attendance, but we'll be cheering them on. What I think this game comes down to, I think it's meaningful possessions, like red zone offense. Tennessee is very good in red zone offense. They're 100% in red zone scoring this season, 27 out of 27 of attempts, or 27 out of 27 attempts. Isn't that crazy? And Alabama isn't. Alabama's 85%, 24 of 28, which is still very good. But Tennessee is really good about taking points once they're in the red zone. A few more stats here. 4th down conversions. This season, Tennessee is 11 of 14 on 4th downs. That's 78.5%. Compared to Alabama, 3 of 8, which is 37.5%. I mean, 4th down conversions are how you suck the life out of your opponent. So if Tennessee can get this tempo going and get some of those critical 4th down in opponent territory conversions, that gives you a chance to pull out this massive upset.
I agree with you. And also, kudos to our special teams last week. When you pin a team back in the deep part of their zone and they have to go 90 yards every time, you're giving your defense the best possible chance. We're going to have to do that against Alabama, period. We're going to have to make them go as far as possible. And if we do that, if we can just keep everything clicking like it has been, I really do think we have a great shot. I cannot wait. I am so excited for this game. Probably more excited for this game than I have been in a long time, honestly. I mean, you always look forward to, the opportunity to play Alabama, but like you don't really have this thought that you're going to do anything. But this year just feels a little bit different. I'm hopeful.
There is something a little different in the air. Over the last 15 years, since 2007, I've seen the games. We've all watched the games. There's not been a single year that I've even entertained the thought of picking Tennessee to win this game, because we've always been like a 3-touchdown underdog, 2-score underdog. Even the stats now, like if you look at the stats now, most of them show that Tennessee is just not quite there to win this game. And that's why most people probably aren't picking Tennessee. But in the last 15 years, if there's ever been a year where you could conceivably pick Tennessee to win, it's this year. On Sunday, when I texted y'all, I said that if Alabama opens up as less than a 14-point favorite on the road, that I'm going to pick Tennessee to win it. And that spread opened at -8. So I'm sticking with it. And I'm picking Tennessee, and I've got my cigars on the way. I'm going to have them with me on Saturday. I'm picking the Vols to light the victory cigars in Neyland Stadium this weekend. I got to call a score. I think if Tennessee's going to win, they got to score more than 30. So I'm going to say final score, Tennessee 38, Alabama 34.
Nice. I like it. A little bit about the victory cigars. So 1950, somewhere in the 1950s, Jim Goostrey, he was the head of the athletic trainer for Alabama. He began a tradition where he would hand out cigars following a victory over the Vols. Both teams actually continued the tradition up to now, and they kept it secret from the NCAA because of all the tobacco rules across all the campuses. Alabama restarted the tradition in 2005, and they self-reported an NCAA violation on themselves. And every year since 2007, they knowingly violate the rule and report it in honor of the tradition. Most Vol fans will remember when Butch Jones was lighting up the cigars in Neyland Stadium the year after he had been run out of town.
Oh, yeah, I'll never forget that picture.
Not the best victory cigar if you're a Vol fan, but hopefully we can be lighting them up this Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. It might have been tobacco rules, but I think it was actually like the whole NCAA rules against like improper gifts.
That history?
Yeah, I did, but I'm pretty sure it had more to do with like giving athletes and players improper gifts and things like that. I don't know that it was the tobacco necessarily. I think it was more that like it violated NCAA rules against like, improper gifts or cash.
Extra benefits.
Extra benefits, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
But it's a great tradition, and they've been rubbing it in our face for the last 15 years. Could you imagine if Tennessee wins on Saturday, that whole stadium just lights up with cigar smoke? How awesome would that be?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I am going to say that they won't tear the goalpost down, but they would storm the field if they beat Alabama.
They're not really a tear the goalpost down fan base. Like, I'm not going to say never, but there's been a lot of big games. It just doesn't happen. I think this is a fan base that kind of expects to win and kind of historically feels that they're better than tearing down field goals when you beat Alabama. There are still people alive who remember Tennessee beating Alabama consecutive years. I'm not sure that this is like tear down the goalpost worthy, but it's a big win. Storm the field, absolutely.
I got to mention this real quick. The first game in 1901 between the Vols, do you know what happened?
The first game
in 1901? Yeah, ended early in a 6-6 tie because there was a controversial was that call.
The one? Oh, really? It was offsides?
There was an offsides call, and all the fans rushed the field and basically like made a big stink out of it, and they couldn't get everybody off the field, so they just like stopped the game.
Just ended the game?
Yeah, and that's how the rivalry began, 6-6, all over an offside call.
That's pretty great. I mean, I know like the broad overview of the rivalry. Like, I know they played it in Birmingham for years because like there was no stadium in Tuscaloosa. So whenever Tennessee would play on the road, it was always in Birmingham. I think Auburn was the same way. Like Auburn didn't have a stadium and Tennessee used to play them in Birmingham too. It is a historic rivalry. It's kind of like Florida, over the last couple decades. It hasn't felt much like a rivalry. Although the Florida one is different. We've gotten that one off our backs this year. I think it's time to get the Alabama one off our back. I think they can do it. They're going to have to play the best game they've ever played, but they've got the talent. They've got all the pieces. I think if Cedric Tillman can come back and they can just play a complete game, take advantage when they need to take advantage, do all the right things. Don't give Alabama anything easy. Don't give up stupid special teams mistakes. No muffed punts. Don't take unnecessary sacks or tackles for loss. Just get the ball out. Be safe with it. No turnovers, no fumbles. They absolutely can win, and I'm going to stick with my pick. Could be wrong. I mean, history's telling me it's the wrong pick, but if there's ever been a year I could pick them, it's this year.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to go Tennessee as well. I'm going to say 34-27. So let's go.
There you have it. We're both picking Tennessee to cover and win outright in Knoxville against the Crimson Tide. Thank you so much for listening to the SEC Recap Podcast Game of the Week episode. Don't forget, you can check out all of our content in one place now. Articles, YouTube, podcasts, all on secrecap.com. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And as always, it's great to be in the SEC.